Director Parrott,
Here.
Director Crail,
Here.
Director Shopey,
Here.
Director Robinson.
Here.
I'm Director Rowan, and I am here. I'd like to welcome everybody. Conflict of interest. I have, I believe.
I think you did.
Nobody else. Communications and celebrations, we're not gonna have because the principals are not gonna be here.
I have laid a sheet that has Scott and Heidi's notes. Heidi's are at the top, Scott's at the bottom. I'm sorry, Jared's at the bottom. Jared and Heidi's, just a little of what's going on in the school. I just told them that, asked them not to come tonight, so Teresa and I could use these tables and we could spread out more.
Yep, that makes sense. Public comment cards. We have none, because we have no public. So item number 7, approval of the proposed agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the agenda. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Item number 8, the consent items.
With your consent items, I have one open enrollment app that is not timely that I'd like to pull out from just the consent items, discuss, and then act on it separately. Or at least discuss it on if you want to put it with the other ones. So I don't know how you want to do that, John. People can read the open enrollment app.
Yeah, we can move to approve the consent items with the exception of the untimely open enrollment request.
I'll make that motion. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent items with the exception of the untimely open enrollment request. Are there any questions, discussion? The other open enrollment ones were,
Yeah, they were timely. They just came from an online academy, so.
any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we have the one remaining open enrollment request. And you have the explanation in your packet. Technically, to be able to discuss it, we have to have a motion and a second. That does not mean that you're in favor of it, but we just can't discuss it until we have that.
I'll make a motion to approve it. Or to put it out, whatever we need to do.
Do we have a second?
What is, I guess I want to clarify what the motion is.
To approve the open enrollment request. However, if you make a second, that doesn't mean you're voting to approve. That just means that
We can discuss it.
we can discuss it legally unless we have a motion and a second. We can't discuss stuff.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the open enrollment request. Now, is there any discussion or questions?
I can give you a little history on this. When we shut down, I was contacted by the parents asking if I would sign open enrollment papers to allow the kids to go to Webster City so they would be on the mom's schedule. I said I would not. The board is the one that makes this decision, not me separately. So that is why it is a board agenda. I personally believe you're opening a door that you do not want to open by allowing this, and every school in the state would be the same way. When we shut down for COVID, which hopefully we won't have to do again now because your guidance has changed a little bit. 450 elementary kids' parents had to find a place to put their kids. It's not convenient for anybody. If you allowed it to go to other schools, you will have 50 apps the next day wanting them to send their kid to another school so they don't have to get a daycare or put the school age kid somewhere. that is why I don't think you do it in this situation. I understand completely what they're asking for, and I understand the logic behind it. Open enrollment is for the entire year, and you will lose a ton of kids out of your elementary. And I would doubt that any other school would allow their kids to leave if they have to shut down for a week. It's just a bad situation that we're in. I believe that she can take the kid down there. The district just doesn't get any money if she can work that deal with her own school, but it doesn't open the door from an open enrollment standpoint. Now that the guidance has changed, we would have been open that week. When we had to shut down, we had so many kids that were quarantined and so many staff that were quarantined that we couldn't operate. We were one of the few schools in the state that were that way. Now that we have a mask mandate, where everybody's wearing a mask, that doesn't happen. We would have been in school if we had that before. Moving forward, I hope that's the case. So my recommendation is to not approve this one.
So even with open enrollment, I mean, if 50 other people did come in, they would still have to transport their own kids. We don't have to take care of any of that. The other school district doesn't have to take care of it.
Yes, the other school district can't come in to get them. So if you open enroll your kid right now, you would have to drag them to whatever place.
Whatever district it is.
Yeah.
But we lose the money on each one that
We
we
lose the money.
approve to
We
open
send the money
enroll.
with them. If the kid goes, we send the money with the kid.
But a district does have the right to accept a child without funding. So,
I think in that case, the parent would be required to pay tuition.
right, well, unless the district, for whatever reason, decides to waive it, I don't know if the
They're
legal.
not
That's between-
supposed to
That's
wait.
between the parent and the district,
Yeah,
yes.
that's none of our business.
They're supposed to charge.
Right. So,
They're only wanting to open enroll one child.
Say that again.
They have two kids. that
Two
they're-
kids, yeah, this is the youngest one, the one that needed, I mean, if you read it, it'd be like my little kids.
Need to go to
They
daycare.
need, there's no daycare because you're expecting them to be at school, so they need somebody to watch them doing their work. I had teachers who had kids that were in the same boat. We started a daycare at our school, so their teachers, the teachers' kids who normally would be in school can sit there, can do their online learning and then go to daycare. They're kids that daycare is really not set up for because they're in school usually.
Mhm, okay.
in the policy, as far as I know, I don't know if we've ever made an exception to that timely deadline, have we?
I have made requests, and usually it's for the safety of the kid. There are certain
Yeah.
situations where I'll say this kid safely cannot return to our school, we need to move them to another district.
Just, but,
But it's not at the request of the parents usually.
No, it's at the request of the parent too, yep.
any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the open enrollment requests, in this case being untimely, signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay.
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 Name.
Motion fails. Okay, back to where I belong. Okay, the next item is number 9, mask mandate for all students, staff, whenever reasonable and possible.
So with the governor's new guidance, I have told everybody they need to wear a mask. I've had a few exceptions where they brought doctor's notes that we're working with them on. The new guidance says if I mask and you're masked and I test positive, you do not have to get quarantined. If I wear a face shield, even if you're masked, you will get quarantined. So we talked about our return to learn plan, and we made this recommendation that we do a mask mandate, not a shield mandate. If the state would ever open it back up to where we could wear shields again, then we would go back to shields, but at this time they have not. My recommendation is that you make the mask mandate for students and staff whenever reasonable and possible, which if there's a medical reason why they can't, we will work with them, but other than that, they're required to wear a mask. And we really have not had much kickback from our kids. When you walked around the school, 90% of your kids were wearing masks instead of shields in. people just got used to the mask and wore it, so.
So we need a motion to approve making mask wearing mandatory.
Yes, and there's two different things here. One is masks for students and staff, and then I want to discuss indoor sporting events too, and if we want to mandate anything there. So the first one would be, are we going to mandate masks for all students and staff whenever reasonable and possible?
I make a motion that we mandate masks, unless it's medically not necessary.
Or you can get a religious exemption
Sure.
too, but that's why I do have an out in there that we'll work with people if they have an issue with it.
And can we just fit it all into one, that we just go with the state guidance? And if it switches back to that, we approve, that if the state approves shields in the future.
I think we already have a motion that allows face
Okay.
coverings, which means if that happens, I will allow it and then I'll bring it back to the board for
Okay.
verification.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for a mask mandate.
I'll
This is-
second.
This is for students and staff.
Students and staff.
Been
And
moved and
visitors.
seconded that we make.
Say that again?
And visitors,
This would be visitors. This would be people entering the school.
correct.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we make masks mandatory for student, staff, and visitors whenever reasonable and possible. Are there any questions or discussion?
When school started, didn't we have a mandate, but did we allow the mask or the
That
shield in
mask or
school?
the shield. Yes,
Okay.
the original idea was that you could wear a shield.
Right, so it was one or the other except on the
The
buses.
state
is
came
what we
out
did the
and
first time.
said the shield is no longer, if you're wearing a shield, you're not gonna be immune. And we found the shields to be effective. We did not have a problem with the shield. We are not throwing the shields away because we still have a feeling that they might expand that guidance and we'll have them, but right now it is just masks. So,
Any other questions or discussion?
and if a person can't wear a mask, we're still asking them to wear a shield, you know, with that, whatever reasonable and possible, and that's what they're wearing, but they can still be quarantined.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Now the second half of that, masks mandatory for indoor sporting events.
We have basketball and wrestling season coming around. Some schools have it, some schools do not, some conferences are looking at it. Right now, we just have a recommendation. I've talked to Rich sent an email suggesting that we make it mandatory. The issue is the enforcement of it. Nobody wants to enforce it. Our enforcement would be, John, will you please put on your mask? Come back later, John, will you please put on your mask? If you're not gonna put on your mask, I'm gonna ask people to move away from you because you're there. It is an enforcement issue, but if we put the mandate in, at least it gives you a bite that says, we're requiring people to wear masks. Where we are right now with the numbers climbing, I don't think it's a bad idea. My recommendation would be you do a mask mandate at volumes.
I'll make a
What are
motion.
what are the other schools in our conference doing?
We have not had a conference meeting since since September. We will have another one next week. Not everybody even had a mask mandate in their school at the last time. When you get to northern Iowa, some of those did not have that many cases at the time, so they were leaving it optional for their kids. Once the governor has come out with guidance that you don't get quarantined with masks, they're starting to have the discussions and fighting it if they put a mask mandate in, if their public will approve it. Clarion has a mask mandate on their indoor sporting events. I would say half of our conference does not at this time. It is just a recommendation.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for a mask mandate at all indoor sporting events.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to make masks mandatory at all indoor sporting events. Are there any questions or discussion?
I'll just say this, that I guess my biggest thing with that is we have staff that's working at these games that don't that have to wear a mask, but everybody coming in doesn't. And the enforcement side of it is, yes, it is a pain in the butt. I would agree. But we also don't have to let those people into school without a mask. Because we don't let visitors in without a mask, do we?
No, not during the school.
So technically, a game is no different. Yes, somebody's going to have to stand there, but the ticket takers, if you're paying to get in, they don't have a mask, they don't get to come in. It's as simple as that. And after that, it's technically trespassing then. So they can be arrested. And I know it's something you don't want to go down, but we mandate it all day long for students and staff. But then at 4 o'clock, everything stops and it's a free for all.
I think you will see people complying with the mandate. If
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
mandate it,
Yeah,
I think you will see people comply.
But I mean, that's just my,
I was against it at the beginning. Where we sit right now, I think you need to have it. My recommendation has changed from 2 months ago.
sure.
And I was only at one volleyball game due to scheduling and things, but it seemed like the majority of the people left their mask on while I was there. I mean, I didn't try to look at everybody, but I mean, it seemed like most were even compliant with just the recommended versus the required, so.
My biggest concern would be an all-day wrestling event.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're in a gym that's hot. That is where I don't know how you handle that situation. You know, you're gonna have to let people go outside. If you go outside, you can take your mask off. As long as it's not freezing cold, you have that as an option. You can do that right now between games if you want. You know, you have the opportunity. We're just gonna have to be a little more flexible on, it used to be like the cigarette break where people would go out and smoke and come back. You may have to have that.
Yep.
Do you see them limiting attendance at all and having some kind of capacity requirements?
I have not seen that yet, but wrestling would be where you could hit that.
I mean, you go to some of these Saturday
You got
meets and
16
it's,
teams there, you've got a lot of just parents.
Yeah.
Even if you limit it to parents, you've got a lot.
yeah, I mean, heck, it's packed and hot without a mask. So,
I used to.
And you're
put
not gonna
hard
social
bites.
distance without,
no, you
without
can't get enough people in
Right.
there now, I mean, and have space, so.
I used to tell my staff, please try to attend sporting events. I did not do that this year because if you don't have to be there, you're probably better off not being, so it's not overcrowded.
The way it worked in St. George when I was out there, and there was a lot of softball teams, and people would wear their mask down until somebody came by and said up. So I mean, that was the enforcement. They weren't gonna throw you out, but they would just come by and say, pull it up. And at least if they come through the door and they got around their neck, you can just say, pull it up, and they can do it while you're watching it.
Well, my original guidance was if somebody chooses not to, don't sit by them. I can spread out, but we're getting to where our events are inside and it's harder to spread out. And
Yeah.
wrestling, the number of people that can come to one of those concerns me.
Yeah.
Or just the number of kids. In a basketball game, you've got 24 basketball players. At a wrestling meet, you've got 12 from each school.
Yep.
So,
I've just learned that 2 Iowa State football games so far, as long as you have a snack and a drink, just every so often, you pull it down to take a bite and a drink because it gives you that,
Fresh air.
that break of fresh air, exactly. So, I mean, it can be done. It's just,
And actually, that's what they told us when we were on St. George is make sure you got a water bottle so you
yeah, I mean, it,
look like you're drinking. So
Well, and the idea is the more you're wearing a mask, the less the issue.
yeah,
So if I get hot and I take it off for a minute and I put it back on, that's better than me sitting there for 15 minutes. It's only a minute. So
Aaron, any questions or comments?
No.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
I
Opposed? Item number 10, approve the SIAC committee members.
if you look towards the back, page 20, I have updated, I believe, the SIAC meeting. If it is similar to this year, we may not have it. Last year it got canceled because it was at the end of the school year. It's still a requirement that we're supposed to have it, so we'll put the committee together and we'll try to contact them. The main thing they do is they go over the test scores. Last year we didn't have any test scores, so and this year we're not gonna have any test scores because we didn't take the test last year. So I recommend that you approve this list if it looks okay, and this will be our SIAC committee for this year.
Number 22 doesn't live here.
He would go to a business owner. He's come to the meetings before and given input, so. If you look at the numbering on 32 and 33, I see, it goes up one. So the numbers are still correct, it's just off.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the list for SIAC committee members. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Item number 11, superintendent goals for 2021.
We had a work session, end of the month. If you look at page 20, I think that's 21, you have a list of the goals. If this looks okay, I recommend that you approve these.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the superintendent goals for 2021. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 12, purchases in excess of $25,000.
None at this time.
Item number 13, board member reports.
If you want to go to the Iowa Association Delegate Assembly or the convention, you can let us know. We can stream it here, you can stream it at home. Teresa just has to sign you up. We also have the cross-country conference meet here in Eagle Grove on the 15th. That same night, we have a try in volleyball, so I'll be at the volleyball game and Rich will be out at the cross-country meet, so we should have those covered. State qualifying cross-country meet in Eagle Grove on the 22nd.
Any board members got anything? Superintendent's report.
Superintendent, to start with, October 15th is enrollment. Our enrollment is down. This is the first time in a few years that we've been down. My best guess right now is 10 to 15 kids will be down. I believe that some of this is COVID related. One of the big things that we're seeing is your 10th and 11th graders, a lot of those kids joined the workforce and did not come back. And my guess is that they're sitting at home in March and they said, if you're not going to school, you're going to be working. And they worked through the summer and they did not come back. We kind of did a tracing, and out of 10th and 11th graders last year and this year, we lost a total of 15 kids. And a large number of those kids, when you called, they'd say they've entered the workforce. It's something as a district we're going to have to look at and address so this doesn't happen every single year. Because when you're in 10th grade, usually you're turning 16. 16 means you're employable and you can work under different rules for OSHA. It's new for us, and most of these are our migrant students that we're losing. How do we get them so we can still get their credits? We did reach out to a few kids that weren't coming back and they said they had to work. We worked into their schedule. Can you come in the morning and pick up some credits? Can you come in the afternoon and pick up credits? I think we're gonna have to reach out that branch and do that some. We knew last year that we had kids that worked overnight, usually cleaning at different places. made it very difficult for them to come and to get to school in the morning. So our alternative school and alternative classes are probably going to have to look a little bit different. For the most part, we have the same number of kids in the district, we just don't have them in school. I think part of it too, Teresa and I were discussing it, I think most of your housing is full. So when you hit that cap, I think that, because the number of kids hasn't switched, and if one family moves out, another family moves in, but the number that you have doesn't fluctuate a whole lot. So we will have to definitely keep an eye on our enrollment, just to make sure that our numbers work out. So that is something that we will have confirmed at the next board meeting, but right now I'm predicting we'll be down between 10 and 15 kids. We will be needing a new attorney. Rick Engel is retiring. He's been our attorney for a long time. I know that I was just talking to him on the phone. I don't know how old he is, John, but he's old enough to retire.
He's my age.
Okay. So he sent out a letter that said the end of this calendar year, he would retire. We are not the only school around here. It kind of went on a soup thing. Most of them are using Ehlers and Cooney. That is going to be my recommendation. We have used them before. We've actually had a bill into them this time. It's who we use for construction. They have a team of school attorneys. When you contact them, they will usually assign you one and then branch out to one of theirs in a certain area if they have it. If I have your permission to do so, then I will reach out to them just to see if we can get a transition from where we are. But we will have to appoint one because they're also our lead negotiator when we get into negotiations. Last thing I have is work on this building. We have everything ready to go. We have to get the asbestos removed. We have the report. We have the team. I believe it's scheduled for the end of October that the asbestos removal people will come in. Most of them are elbows and things on pipes that they have to get up and work with. Once that is removed, then the contractors will be in here and start that project. So, any questions for me?
Was the asbestos removal about the same as it was expected or more?
Actually, it was not, we don't have a bid on it yet. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I saw a dollar figure somewhere. It was under 20,000, but when we put a new heater in this a while ago, we removed a lot of it.
Gotcha.
So it's not as detailed. Now, they did go through and they said, you have 12 by 12 tile in places. In a school, you can cover that. I did not get that removed. These are not asbestos. If you see one that's a 2 by 2, which some of these rooms have, those are asbestos. Those we have to get rid of. So they were looking at some of the doors and some of the joints too, but it's just kind of spotty what we've fixed up. Like this whole thing's been remodeled, so it's pretty good. Some of that's upstairs on this side's never been touched. So, about half of it was probably done before. Any other questions? That is all I have then.
Looking for a favorite motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We're adjourned.